Do you dream of sharing stages with world-renowned industry leaders and want to get your message heard on global platforms, but aren't quite sure how to do it or even how you could do it at all, while also running your business and living your life? Well, today's guest has shared stages with legends like Deepak Chopra and Les Brown, and has been featured in over 100 media outlets in just the last 2 years, while running a highly successful business and still being one of the most genuine, balanced, pure-hearted humans I know. Want to know her secrets to success? Come on in. Welcome to Transforming Millions, where women leaders get real about what it really takes to make world-changing impact without life-sucking consequences. Today's guest is a highly acclaimed New York City psychologist, two-time international bestseller, and Forbes-recognized peak performance coach for impact-driven leaders. Also a sought-after international speaker, she's shared stages with self-development leaders, including Deepak Chopra, Les Brown, Brian Tracy, Bob Proctor, and Dr. Joe Vitale, just to name a few. Known as the wise psychologist, she has pioneered the inner message approach, helping individuals decode their thoughts and emotions to break free from negative patterns and unlock their true potential. As the founder of the acclaimed Madison Park Psychological Services, she leads a top 5% rated team of nearly 30 psychologists, providing tailored care to multicultural clients. Dr. Saad's expertise has been featured in over 100, yes, 100 media outlets, including every major network, certainly in the US, some around the globe, including ABC, CBS, NBC, BBC, Fox, Forbes, USA Today, and more, and thus solidifying her reputation as a leading authority in psychology and personal development. I am so happy to welcome today Dr. Yasmine Saad.
Thank you so much, Spencer, for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for being here. And wow, about that bio. You know, we first met, it's funny, I was thinking this morning, I was talking to my husband about that I was interviewing you today. And I said, I think it was 2 years ago that we met in New York City at that live event in October. So it's been almost exactly 2 years. And it has been such a joy to watch you expand your reach and your credibility isn't the right word, but what am I trying to say? Like your authority in your field to get out there and to be sharing stages with people like Deepak and others among them, and how your bio has grown and evolved. I mean, we even said in the green room before we started filming, I was like, yeah, I looked on your website and I knew just from what I know about you, that was not cutting it, because you have done so much in the last 2 years.
That's right. I mean, I've been blessed to be given many, many opportunities to go on wonderful stages, and my bio has not kept up with me on the website, but it will change soon. It will change.
Yeah. I mean, you have had like rocket launch growth over the last couple of years. And that's one of the things that I really want to make sure we talk about today, because I think so many of our viewers and our listeners are people who are looking to expand their impact, expand their reach, have more of a global effect, even if they don't necessarily think, oh, I want to go change 1 billion lives and completely change the world. But, you know, part of our show name, Transforming Millions, is because many of our viewers are looking to make world-changing impact that will be transforming millions of lives. So we will definitely be getting to that, of what happened or what changed over the last 2 years to cause such huge growth. But why don't we start with, how did you get here? How did you come into this line of work? And why are you so passionate about it?
Oh, that's so good. Why am I so passionate about it? Because I'm following my passion. So basically, you know, I grew up in Lebanon and I immigrated to Paris, France. And so as part of a family of immigrants, my parents put me in the best schools and they really wanted me to succeed. I was good in math. And they were like, oh, here you go. You have a business life right in front of you. And I came back at age 16, because in Paris, you have to decide what career you're going to choose at age 16. And I was like, math is not going to do it. Finance is so not going to do it for me. And I thought, well, what do I love? What do I love? And as you notice, I have a melodious tone of voice. And so already at school, people would come to me for advice, for soothing before exam. And I loved helping people. And I thought, I love doing this. I'm going to be a psychologist. And so that's how I decided. Now, mind you, my mom, who was a proponent, follow your heart, follow what you love, was like, it's made for you. Absolutely. My father, on the other hand, was like, have you lost your mind? So he was like, you're insane. This is insane. You're going to give up all this financial security, to deal with people who are not well. You're going to not become well. But my father was wise that he gave me the advice, but then he told me, do what you want. I gave you what I thought and you do what you want. I said, okay, well, I'll do what I want. And I kept in the back of my head what he was saying, that, okay, how will I support myself and how will I not get impacted by the negative? And so I made it my mission. And part of my approach to therapy is very centered on seeing the other side of illness, on seeing the gift, on seeing the other side, so that you see people's strengths, who they are at the core, instead of seeing illness, disease, and pathology. So in some way, thanks to my dad, a lot of things got put into place. And he had told me, be the best at what you do. And I remember telling him, I'll be the best at it, not knowing what it meant at the time. And here we are. And so I went into psychology, became a psychologist in France. And then at 23, I was like, who's going to see a psychologist at 23? No one. So I moved to the States, pursued my studies, did a PhD, then became a psychologist. And now it's been 15 years past, and here we are.
That's incredible. How I love that the story about your parents and about your mom being so supportive, and yes, follow your dream, follow your passion. Your dad thinking, are you crazy? Like, what are you thinking? You need to live somehow. Although I don't know if I would think psychology is one that you can't live off of, but it's funny how parents have ideas for us on what we should do or what's going to work for us and all of that. So yay for him to turn around and still say, just be the best at it that you can be.
Yes. But, in France, psychology is actually, you cannot make a lot of money because it's not reimbursed by health insurance. The fee is very low. So, and people at the time were not going to see psychologists as readily and as easily as in New York City, for example. So it was a much harder path and full of issues, if you will. So it wasn't a straightforward, how would you get the patient? How would you get people to pay for your services? It's not reimbursed. People are not really going to see a psychologist. So, it was way much more iffy. And that's partly why I moved to the States, because now it has changed in France, but at the time it was much harder.
Yeah. One of the things I think that really speaks to in the entrepreneurial spirit, and also in I think we have a lot of high achieving women who are in the audience. And I think it really speaks to the element of like finding a way. Like, you knew what you wanted. You knew it wasn't going to necessarily be easy where you were. And so you found the path, you found a way to say, okay, where am I going to be best set up to succeed? Let's do that.
Exactly. And I would add that for me, it was more a faith and trust, because I know a lot of people are like, okay, I'll find a way, let me plan, predict, anticipate. For me, it was like, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. So a bit of a faith and trust. Like, I never thought I would move to the States ever. Like, if you had told me at age 18, you're going to move to the States, live there, settle there, I was like, you're nuts, not me. Like, I would not, that was not in my plans. But life brought me there naturally. So I have this faith and trust that whatever you love is there for a reason. There's a reason for that love, and you're meant to do something with that love, and you will figure it out. So that faith and trust is huge. Now, of course, I do action steps and everything. I just don't pray to God, not that kind of faith.
Yeah. One of my husband's favorite lines is, what is it? Something like, pray like it all depends on God, but behave like it all depends on you, kind of
That's
thing.
right. Perfect. It's a great one. I love it. Yes, exactly. It's really good.
Yeah. So, one of the things I love about the work that you do as well is that, this kind of ties back to some of what your parents said too, about how your dad said, oh, everybody's going to have such problems and it's going to weigh you down and you're going to be miserable as a result of it. You really bring a more positive and holistic approach to wellness, don't you? And you have a tagline that actually was not included in your bio, but I'd love for you to say about your Eastern wisdom. And what is your line
Which one? Connect to the
about
essence.
Eastern, yeah, connecting using
I help people. Yeah, I help people. I use ancient Eastern wisdom to cure modern Western problems.
yeah, I love that. To me, that's so brilliant. And I mean, not only is it brilliantly worded and put together, but just the approach, because I think, my sense of you is very much that you do have the spiritual connection and that the Eastern wisdom, really, that's a great way to say it, within you. And it's very much rooted in the modern Western medicine and Western, not that I'm saying Western is the answer, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I think some people get a little put off thinking if something is spiritual or Eastern, like, oh, that's like woo woo, airy fairy, out there stuff. It's like you're just going to like think positive thoughts and wait for things to magically happen. But you really mesh the two together in ways that create actionable, forward moving progress and results.
Yes. I am a very positive person. I was born with a smile on my face, but actually my approach is not so positive, it's balancing. So that's why people resonate with it, because I will never tell you to do positive affirmation. I will never tell you to think positive. I actually don't believe in that. I believe that everything coming in terms of your thoughts, your emotion, in terms of life event in your life is a growth opportunity. But it all starts where you're at and balancing that. And so it's more about bridging east and west, bridging good and bad, and we all veer on the pendulum too much one way or the other. So if I have a person who comes so positive, I'm actually going to help them be in the negative. But most of the world veer to the negative. So I'm helping them the other way. So I sound positive and I sound more positive psychology, but it's actually a yin and yang. It's a bridge. It's a rebalancing act that I do constantly. So that's why you see it so grounded in Western medicine, because it starts with where the person is at, and then I take them to where they're not at yet.
Yeah. Very good. I love that. I love that distinction of the balancing. I was a yoga instructor for many years, and it was at a time when had my yoga studio and was teaching, was when hot yoga was very big. And I was like, typical Americans, man, we like take everything to the extreme and completely ruin it in the process. And what I learned from my yoga instructors, who were very balanced and had studied in India and everything, that it was very much about, they were like, it's funny because it's like the super hardcore driven, go, 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 intense people that get drawn to the hot yoga or the power yoga classes that are the intense go, go, go classes. And they're like, what they really need is like a restorative class or something, like somewhere to really just relax and unwind and connect and be silent for a little bit. And vice versa. The people that were drawn to the really like calm, silent ones were the ones who maybe needed a little more energy boost or flow into their experience.
Absolutely. But I also say, like, the people who are go, 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 that's their talent, that there's passion, but they rely too much on it. So it's about tilting that switch a little, because they will always be go, go, go. It's like if they ask their friend, who are you? They will describe them as a go, go, go person. That's not going to go away. Mm-hmm. But I think they rely too much on that. So it's where people go to their safety zone. People go to their zone of talent and genius and neglect other areas. So, my approach is go do this yoga, but let's see if we can stretch you to another way so that you balance that, because right now you're way too much leaning on your comfort zones.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it kind of, that sort of pings for me also. I talk a lot in my own work about how our identity, excuse me, how our identity tends to run us, that it has us more often than we have. We think, oh, sure, I have an identity or a sense of who I am, or my way of being, that I am a super achiever, or I am the fun one, or I am the laid back one, or whatever. But, a lot of times I often joke, like, you don't have your identity. It has you by the throat, like a noose around your neck, dragging you around, kind of forcing you to be that way all the time, until we can sort of pause and recognize, like, oh, okay, that works for me in a lot of situations. It's obviously worked to get me where I am and worked to the level of success I have now, but it doesn't always work. And very much like you say, we need to be able to find that balance with other ways of being. So it's not always 100% just to that default mode.
Absolutely. And if you don't do that work, well, life will make you do the work. Like,
Yes.
Events will come your way to stretch you. Like, if you see people struggle, they're all about exactly what you described, that they went into a way of being in the world in a more rigid way. And so life comes and they're surprised by it. But the idea is that they need to build those other abilities that they have neglected. So life will definitely make you grow if you don't do the inner work. So better do the inner work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm curious, for you, as you've built your business, as you've built this practice that now has nearly 30 other psychologists. I know your practice and some of the specific psychologists have won numerous awards as best in field. How has this played in for you? Like, what sort of inner work have you had to do along the way to keep growing through this process?
So, for me, my approach is that everything is about my personal journey. So although it looks like I'm giving to a lot of people, I'm helping a lot of people, I'm training psychologists, all of this, everything that's happening is for me and for my growth. So whenever I see something showing up in the world, I'm like, okay, that's something for me to work internally. So if I have one psychologist who has trust issue with me, then I'm like, okay, what is happening that this is coming to my life, and what do I need to work internally? Do I have my self-trust issue? Where am I on the trust issue piece? And that's an example. And then I will work at it and I will see, oh, actually, I see that maybe I do this and I do that. So I can totally understand how this person is there. Or this person is really bringing me their baggage. And I think it's easy because I present myself as more of a motherly figure, let's say. So this is what I need to tweak. So I'm constantly looking at what is my responsibility and what is coming as a reflection of me or as a reflection of what I need next. And so I'm constantly doing, and as I do the work, you then attract different things, like different people start presenting themselves to you. So when I built my business, my company, I did the same thing with every manager, every person. Like, I knew that the moment I brought another person as a manager, well, we'll have a whole new set of different dynamics going on because they were their life journeys. Mm-hmm. So what I have done and worked through was done. So now this was this other person, and I had to do another life journey with that person. So for me, it's all about looking at everything as a growth opportunity. But that being said, it's not easy because in the process, things happen, you get triggered, and then you have to check, okay, I'm getting triggered, I cannot react, what should I do? Then looking at what got you triggered, why you were triggered, calming yourself down, doing the inner work. So it's not as easy as it looks, right? But that's what led me really to be more and more successful. I believe that I really went deep and deep and deep. And so I can welcome more and more and more because I can deal with more and more internally.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that about you, that you really walk your talk. That it's funny. One of my best friends growing up, her mom was a therapist, and my friend would just kind of roll her eyes all the time, like, oh yeah, she knows how to tell other people how to be better, but she's not doing it.
Yes, and it's very common, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've always had the sense from you, though, that you do very much live your work and you really practice what you teach and share with others. And I think it just is such a differentiator. I think that really is I suspect a huge part of your success. And I think we all need that, regardless of what field we're in. I think it's so easy sometimes for people to feel like they've arrived somewhere or they've reached a certain level of success, or you know, like I'm so much further than I ever thought I'd be. And so I'm good now. And anytime I hear anyone, especially in a helping profession, anytime I hear anyone say, oh, I handled that years ago, I'm good kind of thing, I'm like, I hear like alarms going off in my head and flares shooting up. I'm like, oh, honey, no, no, no.
Exactly. No, it always flows, and it always flows. And that's how you want it to be. Life is a creative process. So if you're stagnant, something is not being used, something is not being moved. The idea is just, you know, you need to practice this enough to have enough support, because otherwise it can be a lot. It can be a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on, and thank you so much for agreeing to be with us, is that I feel like you are representative of where a lot of our audience may be, that having already experienced a great level of success, your business is doing fantastic, you're, you know, it's solid, you've been award winning, you're well established in a city that isn't probably easy for everyone to get well established in. And yet, as we said at the beginning, these last 2 years, I have watched you explode in presence, in authority, in sharing stages with huge names and, you know, international best-selling books. So I'm curious if you can share some with us about what shifted for you, like what happened within you 2 years ago that had you start to step into that. And I guess I'd be curious to even know, was this something you were trying to achieve prior to that, and then something clicked, or was it like you just decided then and everything happened?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think actually both. So there was this psychologist in New York City that I would see on TV, and I would say, oh, that's so awesome, she's doing that. I wonder how I could be doing that, but not having a clue how. And so nothing happened really about that. But I think, you know, somewhere it was in my line that I wanted to have a bigger presence.
Mhm.
And I do think that there's time and place, and I do think that certain times there's an opening. So I must have been, you know, from time to time looking at this psychologist profile and seeing, oh, how cool it was, but nothing about it. During the pandemic, well, one day I get an email in my inbox about a reporter who wanted to interview me. And I remember it was NBCLX, and so I didn't know, what is NBCLX. I never heard about NBCLX, and so I was like, is that even legit? What is it? I googled, that was legit, and then I said yes, and then the person came and was during COVID, so they had a gray background, and it was like, it felt like it was filmed in a garage, and I said, there's no way this could be NBCLX, but it was NBCLX, and they edited, and it ended up being perfect. But so there was a time and place. And in that moment, I could have said, no, forget it. This is a scam, or this is not for me. Or, you know, I've never, ever been on TV, and let alone through home on Zoom. I never figure out the lighting, the whole thing. I didn't know nothing. So I could have said no, but I said, you know what? Let's try it. And so this idea of saying yes to what presents itself for me has led me to lots of success in my life, has led me to marrying my husband, moving to the States, becoming a psychologist, everything. So I think that for me was really important, saying yes to that first interview and calling a friend who told me, put 3 books, put your laptop up, it needs to be at your eye level, and then showing up, and then life, I think life supports you. So for example, it was supposed to be me and another person. This other person never showed up, so it ended up being just me. But they had me wait in the back room for 10 minutes. And first TV interview, green room, 10 minutes. It's so anxiety provoking. So I started doing my Qigong energy gate, deep breathing, because I was in the back end, and for 10 minutes, because I'm like, okay, I'm not doing this. And then when the host came, he asked me a lot of questions. And at the end, he said, what were you doing in the back room? Because you looked so peaceful. And so then suddenly there's a whole new aspect that got shown about me and what I do and what I practice. And that was beautiful. And that was really life, you know, and me, you know, showing myself to the world the best that I can be, peaceful and everything. So both, I think there was a preparation in the sense that I've seen it, I wanted it, but then there was a time and opening, and then I said yes. And then I tried to give my best to that yes. So those were the steps. So those are the steps I usually recommend. And afterwards, after that, that's what happened. After that, I posted it on Facebook because I said, oh, now that I have this TV interview, I should post it. So all my friends were like, oh my God, have you thought of being on TV? You actually look the TV part, you speak the TV. Like everybody was like, you know, you're good at it. And so I was like, I never thought about it, but that's true. You know, I was born photogenic. So I always think life gives you what you need for your journey. And then I thought, okay, maybe that's something, but then I didn't know. And then I had, you know, Jen and Chris from Super Connector Media target me on Facebook with their ad Beyond TV Bootcamp. And then I said, oh, why not? 5 days bootcamp. Let me try it 1 hour a day. I tried it. Then they taught me how to pitch TV. I said yes. And, you know, snowball, I met people like you in there and then made connection and make connection and and just it started happening basically.
Yeah.
So that was.
So, you know, as you're sharing all this, it sounds like it was so easy. Which maybe is part of your energy and your flow and how you approach things. But I'm thinking, you know, a lot of my clients, a lot of people who come, either whether working with me one-on-one or at my retreats, I feel like the most common thing I hear from clients is, I feel overwhelmed. Like there's so much, or there's so much to do, or I feel like I have so much pressure or responsibility on me. Like, you know, there's things I want to do, but I feel like I don't have the time or the focus to dedicate to it and all of that. So as you're running this huge, awesomely successful practice in New York City and starting to look at being on TV and then traveling the world and speaking at international conferences and writing books and all of that, how did you approach that? How did you manage that for yourself?
Well, first of all, it was overwhelming. Like there's not.
All right, we're getting real.
I was telling my husband, I've been back to back today all day long. And my husband was like, well, I don't know if you're realizing, but most people just run a business. You're running a business, plus being on TV, plus building a brand, plus you're building something else. Like, it's just, of course. And I was like, okay, maybe he's right. But so it was a lot. But what helps me is the mindset that if it's coming my way, it's because I can integrate it. And if it's overwhelming, it's because I haven't let go fast enough. I've added more than I have let go. So there's something within me that's still hanging on to certain things that should have been distributed or something else should have happened. So let me look internally what's going on with me, because if I'm overwhelmed, I always think it's what I created, because the external life is my creation. So I've creating an over busy life. So I looked, okay, do I like emptiness? Do I like downtime? What happens with that? Like what happens with me not having control, giving to others? What happens? So I looked at all the different pieces that could create an overscheduled life on the outside. And I worked at them, and also waited for some opening. Like, for example, I've been in my practice for a long time, but just this year I hired a director of operation, partly because I've done all this work and I was not ready before, partly because I didn't feel I had the right person yet. So there's those two things that come and they come together. So yeah, it's not easy, but I don't know. I think I have a playful spirit with life. And I think that's what sometimes people miss and forget. They become responsible and they become stressed and they become focused on results. Like for me, I'm very aware that this is a growth opportunity journey for me. And I often think that if, like, as busy as I am, as overscheduled as I am, if I tell you my biggest dream is to do nothing. And I always say it, and everybody thinks I'm crazy because I always say, I do all this because I want to be doing nothing. and it doesn't go because I'm so busy. I create this big group practice, but the idea was for people to take over on what I do. And so all of it is for me is, okay, do the inner work so that you can be peaceful afterwards. Do the inner work. So that's always my, life, I don't know if it's a struggle, but life journey to figure out, okay, what's created on the outside is totally my creation. What do I have to tweak internally so that it changes on the outside? And so that's my secret.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I think what you mentioned too about like, I'm doing all this so that I don't have to do anything. Essentially, I think that a lot of us, we go into business for ourselves thinking like, oh, I'm going to be the boss. I'll be the best boss I ever had. And then we're not always the best boss we ever had. And I feel like that's a huge element that I feel like I'm constantly reminding my clients of is, we got to enjoy the journey on the way. Like, I had a time in my life where I was feeling like, God, I'm always going and going and going. And I don't know, when you learn to swim, I don't know if you experienced this, but when I learned to swim, my parents would be like, come on, honey, come on. And, and like for me to swim to them. And I remember sometimes feeling like I was going to die, like I was going to drown, because I was like, God, I thought I was there and I'm not there. And I realized finally one day they were walking backwards. They were trying to get me to go further. And I had this realization as an adult. I was like, oh my God, I am creating my life just like that, where I'm like, here's the finish line. But then I'm like, nope, the finish line is here now. No, just kidding. The finish line is here now. And I'm doing it to myself. And if I don't enjoy the journey on the way, then like, what's the point? You don't want to be miserable every step of the way there, or every stroke in the swimming analogy.
Yes. And to be fair, and we all start a little bit similar places where it's hard, it's not fun, we get tense, like all of that is part of the journey of being an entrepreneur. And then you work at it. I think 5 years ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to write on every door in my apartment and in my office what I want. And I put it, I want to be playful, free, happy, playful, free every second of the day and night. And I put it everywhere because I was like, this is too stressful. I need playfulness, I need freedom, and I need happiness. And so each time the situation came, I was like, okay, I would look at, okay, how can I be free, playful, and happy with this? And that helped me. And one day I was just like, oh, that's gone. That's achieved. Like I didn't realize that I achieved it along the way. And now I have a new one, which is, seeing the beauty in everything that happens every second of the day, because everything at the end has its own beauty. So if I could do that, I'll be always in a state of grace. So that's the goal. That's the next goal.
That's the next one. That's the next one that we want to have become the new normal.
That's right.
Very good. Very good. I love that. What would you say is one of maybe the best or most fulfilling parts of your work?
For me, so I love teaching. So sharing the wisdom, sharing that with others. So the two most fulfilling part is when I help patients, and after the session, they're so happy and I feel like they change so much. That's so fulfilling. And teaching and training psychologists, because I can see the changes. So helping people on their journey by providing the wisdom that I've acquired through my own journey so that I speed up a bit their journey. That is extremely fulfilling. That's the part that I love the best. I love that.
That's awesome. And that's a lot of, I was going to lead into what's your next big thing, but I think that creates a great bridge or segue into what you're working on right now, your new message. Share a little about that, about what you're up to, and sharing this with the world, not just with clients who come into Madison Psychological Services, but to be able to share with the world.
That's right. I thought that after a while, I think it's a shame of the gift to just share it with one person. I thought if 1 million people heard what I'm telling this one person, 1 million people could be helped. So I created the Inner Message approach, and I'm creating the Inner Message Institute, institute, which to help both psychologists and people on this way of seeing the world, this way of approaching things, this way of decoding their thoughts and emotions, so that they can see that, you know, everything that is coming to you has your own blueprint, your own guide, your own message. And if everybody knew how to decode their thoughts and their emotion, they'll have access to a wealth of wisdom about themselves, about where they are, their journey, the obstacle, the path to take. So that's why I'm creating this, you know, taking it to a bigger level than just my group practice.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we're going to be sharing something in the end that our viewers and our listeners will be able to access to start to tap into that themselves, to decode their thoughts and emotions through that method. So before we get to that, though, what would you say is the most important thing that people need to know or remember about succeeding in business and really having reach and impact in the world?
So 3 key. The first one, of course, you'll have doubt. Of course, it will be difficult, of course, but that is to show you a bit what needs to be tweaked internally. So the first step is expect ups and downs. The second step is those ups and downs are creation of yours. They are consequence of decision you make, consequence of your way of operating internally. So then really look at you within. So that's the second step. And the third step, try to have a growth mindset. We teach that to children, but entrepreneurs should have it too, which is like, you're here to learn and grow. You're not here to perform and give. And I think a lot of people think, oh, I have to give, I have to provide. That's the most noble thing. No, your only job is to take care of you. And once you take care so good of you, you're going to shine so bright that you're going to impact so many. But your job is not to give to others. Your job is to go deeper and deeper in you so that you can shine brighter, get in touch with all the gifts you are, putting them outside in the world, but as an expansion of you. And then people will receive naturally. So those will be my 3 key points for any entrepreneur.
Beautiful. If you'd like to learn more about Dr. Yasmine Saad, you can check out her website at dryasminesaad.com. That's DRYASMINESAAD.com, where you can download a free guide to decode your thoughts and emotions. So check that out for sure. Again, this is part of her new Sharing It with the World. So go take advantage of that. You can also follow her on Instagram and other places, which we will include linked in our show notes for easy finds. Yasmine, thank you so much for being here today. It's been such a pleasure, and I cannot wait to see where you go from here.
Thank you so much, Spencer, for having me and for being a wonderful host and for creating this show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you'd like to learn more about how you can unleash your and your organization's power to profitably and sustainably make the full impact that you know you're here to make, and to do it in ways that work for you without life-sucking consequences, go to transformingmillions.com to sign up for our free masterclass and to be among the first to know about our live coaching and connection event coming soon. See you next time.